Hi there. In this video I would love to talk with you about limiting beliefs and how they might be impacting your life. I'm Nikki Butler, also known as the Autistic Joyologist, and I was diagnosed autistic and ADHD in my mid-40s. And it was at that point that I really started to bring awareness to some of the limiting beliefs that I'd had all throughout my life. And whilst I'd done some work pre-diagnosis to try and change some of my experiences, which I'll share with you later in the video, it was really when I studied for my NLP certification with the incredible Sue Knight that I really started to understand where those limiting beliefs had come from and how they had influenced and impacted many of my experiences. And the good news is we can change those beliefs. We can choose new beliefs, and that's something that NLP is really focused on. There are beliefs of excellence where you can choose to adopt a certain belief and let that form and shape your life. And that's a really interesting concept for me. And during the experience, during the training, I was able to track back to being about 6 or 7 years old, where I was told by a teacher, just do what everyone else in the class is doing. Why can't you just behave like the other children? And I realised that that is probably my first conscious memory of being acutely aware that I wasn't doing the same things as other children, as my peers. And the message I got was, you need to do all you can to fit in and be like everyone else. And that's staggering to think that at just 6 years old, I got that message that I wasn't like everybody else and I needed to do what I could to be better. And that went on through school life. I don't know if your school reports are anything like mine, but I still have mine, which were littered with, she needs to try harder, she could do better if she put her mind to it. She lacks focus, she's got the ability when she wants to, so that do better, try harder, be better narrative has gone through my life. So the belief I've held is that I'm not good enough, and at times that I'm lazy, because I had the message that I could do it if I wanted to, and I couldn't find the connection of why didn't I want to, why couldn't I do the things. But our beliefs can be shaped at any time. So whilst we do have many of our beliefs from childhood, they equally can be passed down through our parents, through our society, through culture, through family members, and just the experiences that we have. Those beliefs and values that others hold can really easily be passed on to us, and we can adopt them as our own beliefs. Now, as I've been writing my book, I've been doing so much research, and there's some really interesting studies that were actually not related to being neurodivergent, but there's a very famous series of math studies where women were told that they were not as good at maths as their male counterparts. And there was lots of split testing done. So some of the women were told this prior to sitting a maths exam, and those women didn't perform as well as the men in the maths test, because they had been told, they had this limiting belief that, well, women weren't as good at maths as men. And then interestingly, the women that weren't told that prior to the maths test performed at an equal level or better than their male counterparts. And I wonder that about being neurodivergent. I'm autistic and ADHD, and I've really started to look at some of those beliefs that I may have absorbed or taken on board about what I should or shouldn't be able to do. So an example of a belief that actually caused me quite a lot of shame is when I was diagnosed autistic, people kept saying to me, oh, you must be a maths genius. I'm not a maths genius. I actually have dyscalculia, so I struggle with maths. I'm the girl that can't add up a row of numbers and get the same answer 3 times in a row. I just can't process it. And so I started to feel like I should be good at maths. I'm autistic. And then I couldn't understand why I wasn't. So that made me feel like a failure and feel like shame. And then equally on the other side of that, the very misguided belief that if you're autistic, you have no empathy, you struggle with emotions. And I'm hugely empathetic, sometimes to the point that it's painful, and that I absorb other people's emotions really, really easily, and they're quite troubling for me. So it's interesting to see the beliefs and the limitations that are passed down through stereotypes, through culture, through society, and where we weave them into our own subconscious in our lives and hold them as our beliefs. So what I'd really love you to do is think about where you have some limiting beliefs and how they're impacting your life. So I truly believe that we have everything we need within us to be successful, to be happy, and to achieve the life that we want. But I also believe that much of what holds us back is these limiting beliefs that we might hold. The fact that we feel like we're supposed to behave in a way that neurotypicals do, that's considered normal. And we're trying to compromise ourselves and sacrifice ourselves to behave in a way that isn't normal for us, because there is a belief that that is what we're supposed to do. And I wonder what would happen if we really start to turn internally and think about what are our limiting beliefs, where they impact our lives, and what it would mean if we chose a different belief. I want to share a couple of examples with you to give you a perspective on this. So as I was training with Sue in NLP, it would be fair to say that Sue is a provocative coach. So it's an unstructured but highly structured way of learning, where it's an immersive experience and you aren't taught the NLP models and techniques, you are immersed into experiencing them, because that is really what NLP is about. So two of my values are curiosity and courage. And so I knew that this program was going to be challenging for me. It was in an open forum, there were multiple people that were on the program, and I knew I was going to be thrown into every day not knowing what to expect, and I was going to have to perform on the spot, which is incredibly difficult for me. You know, looking at language patterns and communication, when my brain really struggles to process things in the same way as neurotypical people, I knew it would be difficult, but I wanted to be curious about what I might learn, what that experience might be for me, and to have the courage to put myself in a situation that I knew was going to make me feel uncomfortable. But here's the belief that I chose that really helped me get through that. So one of the NLP beliefs of excellence is there's no such thing as failure, only feedback. Now that's interesting for me as somebody that really struggles with rejection sensitive dysphoria, which means that any perceived criticism, judgment, or negative opinion I take hugely personally. It can cause emotional dysregulation, and I can react very strongly to it and really take it to heart. That has run through my entire life, but the key thing is I understand that I have RSD, so I do have some techniques to help support me through that. The other thing is that in saying that there's no such thing as failure, only feedback, I adopted that belief with curiosity to think, if I choose to believe there's no such thing as failure, what's the worst that can happen? I'm only going to receive feedback, and that's going to help me learn and progress and achieve a certification that's really important to me. And that's what I did. And there were moments that was incredibly difficult for me, and I thought about quitting. And at one point in particular, just towards the end of the course, we had to do almost like an improv, so like a role-playing situation, and I found it incredibly hard. I came out of the session, I cried, I felt overwhelmed, I felt like there was no way I was going to be able to do it. And the following day, we had to present to the group. Everything within me wanted to not show up, and I talked myself into a position of, okay, you're going to show up, you're going to be brave, courage is your value, you're going to show up. But I had decided in my mind I wouldn't be the one to speak, I wouldn't be the one presenting. So that got me onto the call. And then during that session, it turned out I was going to be the one to speak and the one to present. And that fear welled up inside of me, and I did it. I didn't get the outcome I'd hoped for, but I got some really valuable feedback. Because I believed that I wasn't going to fail and I was only going to receive feedback, I took that feedback, I went away with it, and I got curious about what can I do differently? How can I learn from it? How can I take that forward? That was mind-blowing for me, because as someone with RSD, I would usually have gone away from a situation like that, really rolled it around in my mind, replayed it, ruminated on it, and beat myself up about what I could have done better. And this time I laughed. It felt like it came from a place of fun. It felt like a huge sense of achievement, and I knew that I could do that again. And all of that came from just changing one belief into there is no such thing as failure, only feedback. And I want to share another scenario that actually came pre-diagnosis for me, and that was during the pandemic. So I ran a very successful skin and scar clinic. Pandemic saw everything close. Many of us were in the same situation. I absolutely spiraled out of control. I didn't know what to do. I lived on my own. All of my routine, everything that was familiar to me fell away. And somehow a book called The Obstacle is the Way came into my possession, and I read it. And it was all about making the obstacle your way forward and looking for that as a positive to transform your life. And I chose to make the pandemic my way forward. So whilst everybody was drinking gin and tonic in the garden, enjoying the sunshine, I committed to working 5 hours a day, 5 days a week on my business, so that when I came out of the pandemic, I was in a really strong position to thrive within my business. And that's exactly what I did. And interestingly, my turnover tripled in that first year post-pandemic, all because I chose a belief that the obstacle is the way forward. Now, I use that belief, if not daily, certainly on a regular basis in my life. Whenever there is a challenge or something that presents a difficulty, I choose to see that obstacle as my way forward. I look for opportunities, I look for growth, I look for learnings. And it's incredible when you choose to challenge a belief that you might have had in the past that might have had a negative impact. So I really would love to open a discussion around limiting beliefs, and if you have some limiting beliefs that you're able to identify and see how they have impacted your life, I would love to hear from you. Equally, if you've overcome some limiting beliefs and chosen new ones and have some great examples to share, please do get in touch with me. You can either comment on the video below, you can reach out on socials, and as always, you can email me directly, hello@autisticjoyologist.co.uk. I'm going to create some more videos around our belief system and limiting beliefs and how we can challenge those and choose new beliefs to move forward, because I really feel like there's such a wonderful opportunity to make different choices so that we stop living in hard mode, we make choices that feel aligned to us, and we create lives that we truly enjoy and where we feel fulfilled. So this feels exciting, but I'd love to know your thoughts. I look forward to seeing you soon.